kind of just having a ramble about recovering from schizoid personality disorder, or attempting to recover from schizoid personality disorder. Now, I understand that most schizoids don't think it's important because, what's wrong with us? Nothing, it's the world that's wrong. But when I think through things logically, like emotionally, that's how I feel. I shouldn't need to change, but logically I can see, like, as from an evolutionary perspective, we're a social species, tribal species, it was important to our survival, and as a result, there's a lot of, like, subconscious or unconscious or instinctive stuff, and given that I'm someone who also suffers from depression, if I'm like, the schizoid is not really helping with the depression, it's probably contributing to habits that make me more prone to keep going through depression. And since I don't enjoy being depressed, I'm like, well, none of the treatments for depression have worked. Maybe it's the schizoid instincts and assumptions that I need to try and, adjust. I wouldn't say fix, because I still don't feel like they're a problem, but adjust so that maybe I get out into the world and do more of the things that, our evolutionary biology systems, whatever, the stuff that nature wants me to be doing to be happy in a way. Because, like, one thing about being schizoid, I think, is you end up in your head a lot, and there's all that logical stuff going on, but then it's very easy to ignore the physical, biological, instinctive, actual emotional stuff. Anyway, so I'm probably not explaining it very well, but that's kind of the gist of why am I even trying? Because depression sucks. The schizoid stuff, fine. Happy to do things my own way. But depression sucks. So yeah, I'm not trying to fix schizoid for its own sake. It's to do the depression. Anyway. Couple minutes of that. To get to the point though, like, how is it going? In some ways I have made progress. Like, gradually over many years, I've gotten better at talking to people. I think talking to the camera, doing YouTube, I think that has helped. It's different to talking to a person, and I just ramble and I get some practice using my voice. I get some practice seeming more expressive, all that kind of thing, without the social commitment. Like, yeah, people can comment, but I don't have to engage if I don't want to. Yeah, so, like, I can do all that. Another thing that has helped is my floof. Where is he gone? I don't want to say his name because I might accidentally summon him. It's getting close to lunchtime and he might be like, hey, did you call me? No, keep napping. So the floof, my current floof, he's very extroverted. Honestly, sometimes it's a bit too much for me. Like, yes, schizoid, I generally do better with animals versus humans. Humans are really exhausting. But this is the first time I think I've had a dog who's so extroverted that sometimes even he is exhausting, despite not being human. But, one of the benefits of having an extroverted dog is he actually gets me out of the house. It's a bit like being adopted by an extroverted human as a friend. So I do have, like, my closest human friend is an extrovert. That's probably the only reason she's managed to get in my life, because if she hadn't been all like, oh, you're such a good friend, and I'm like, I don't feel like I did anything special. I just, treat people the way I want to be treated, maybe. Like, I'm not mean to anyone. I help out where I can, but I'm not trying. I don't feel like I'm trying. Anyway, so the first time she said things about, like, what a great friend I am, and, the way that I think and talk, she likes all those things. Like, I was just like, okay, I didn't pick up any of that. So yeah, it's really because of her that we're friends like that. I have been adopted by an extrovert. She is my designated extrovert. One of the major benefits of being adopted by an extrovert is when you go places, you don't want to cause trouble, but if there's a problem, she'll go and sort it out. Or if I'm trying to find something at a shop, can't find it, she'll go grab someone. Now, I've gotten better at grabbing people to be like, hey, I can't find this thing. But it's taken time, and if I don't have to do it, I don't want to do it. Just send her off to do it. So it's kind of like that. Same with having an extroverted dog, because obviously I can't have this one friend around all the time. She's an extrovert. She has a very massive social life. Oh my God. And thankfully she understands that I am not really into all that. So she'll invite me to parties and stuff, but is totally fine with me saying no and staying home. That is a good arrangement. An extrovert who understands that you are not into that stuff. Still polite enough to ask, but without expecting you to be there or being upset when you say no. That's a good arrangement. But yeah, obviously, she's off doing her own thing. So having an extroverted dog, like, it's less pressure than a human, because humans constantly want to do stuff, and at least he goes and has a nap. Like, dogs have a different sleep-wake cycle to us. Humans are an interesting species in that we can go all day. Most animals are not like that. They need downtime. And I think that's why, in the things that I've read and seen, I'm obviously not a scientist, so take everything with a grain of salt, but what I've come across is that might be why we eat so much. Like, we have to eat regular meals through the day so that we keep the energy going. And yeah, no, we're a very strange species. We have high endurance. We used to hunt by just following animals until they got exhausted and had to lie down, and then we just come along and that's how we get our meats. Yeah, so, sorry, I just got distracted by the word meats because we were playing Rogue Ice 2 last night. And all I can think about is the meats. Anyway, no, so, yeah, having a dog, you can have them around constantly, but at least they have some downtime and you can get on with things, although him being an extrovert, and if I get up and do too much, is like, I want to get involved. I'm like, no, just go back and lie down. So sometimes that's hard. He doesn't fit quite into my routine there. But what he does do is he gets me out of the house, and not just out of the house, like, every dog I've had, they get you out of the house, but with my soul dog in particular, I'm getting hot. I'm gonna just turn off the fucking, But yeah, with my soul dog, he was a lot more like me, I think, His problem was more anxiety rather than depression, but, not very social. This is him here, or a piece of him anyway. Yeah, so we would just walk up around the park and back. It was like 15 minutes. First half, he'd dawdle a bit, but then once we passed the halfway point and he knew we were coming home, he would just like try and run all the way home. And I had to try all kinds of things to stop him choking himself on his harness. That's how hard he was pulling. Even his harness was, starting to restrict his breathing. Oh my goodness, which is not supposed to happen with a harness. But anyway, whereas with extroverted floof I've got now, he wants to go to all the busy places, not the back streets. No, he wants to go to all the shops, and he wants to go and get pats from everyone, although it depends. Sometimes he really just wants the treats. He wants to go to the treats. There is one shop he likes to go to where he just likes to hop up on the couch and tell them about his day. He'll like do his sort of wuff, 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 chatting to them. But most of the places, he's just there for the treats. He wants to say hello. He wants to perform for everyone, and be fed. And that results in me talking to a lot of shop owners. And then also on the street, people are like, what kind of dog is that? Finnish Lapphund. And they always mishear it as Finnish Lappu or something. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And sometimes when I say his name is, well, actually, I shouldn't say it. They mishear his name too. Yeah, anyway, so I end up talking to a lot of people, and especially shopkeepers. And sometimes he just wants to hang around for a while, so I end up talking more. And yeah, he's just gotten me out of the house a lot. So I'm doing better with some aspects of socializing. Like, I'm getting a lot more practice, for example, because of him. And when I need to buy stuff, like if I need to get something from Mecca, he will come with me. If I need to go to the pharmacy to get all the various, I'm on the contraceptive pill so that I don't get period pain. I just skip all my periods because that's horrible. And then all the migraine medications that I've been having, and then all the hay fever medications. It's just like, anyway, he comes with me. There is one, there's a lot of pharmacies where they're like, no, but there's one where they love him coming. So we always go to that one. He knows where to sit. He's pretty well behaved these days. They've seen him since he's a puppy, and they're always like, oh, he's so well behaved now. So he's made a lot of progress there. Yeah, no, he comes with me. And so that means like I'm always well stocked on my medications now, because he wants to go. And so anytime I'm running low, we do it on his morning walk, or sometimes afternoon. It depends on what's going on, when things are in stock, if we have to order things in. But yeah, so that's really good. Like, I am on top of that stuff. But I've realized there are some areas where that's not working. I can't, like, there are places he can't go. And if he can't go into those places, that means I have to do a separate walk because I'm not going to tie him up out the front of a shop. He is so good looking. He is exactly the sort of dog that's going to get stolen. And he's so happy that I don't know for sure whether or not he would protest. Like, he might just walk off with someone. His breed are known for being like that, like just being like, oh yeah, okay, sure, fine. He'd probably be a bit concerned because I know when I left him with mum outside a shop one time, he was looking for me, but he was kind of like, it took a while for him to see which one was me when I came back out. Anyway, no, point being, with food things, so those diced fruits that I usually get, I have run out, and I have run out for a few days, and I just haven't been back to buy them. Now, mum is going up and she's going to see if they have them. That means I don't have to do a separate trip outside the house. I would much rather just stay at home. I don't want to go out for a separate walk by myself without my dog. And, I was thinking about the other day and I'm just like, okay, I've come a long way, but there are still areas where, like, to me, it doesn't feel like an impairment. But to outside people, seeing me just go without because I can't be bothered to leave the house, they see that as an issue. And it's actually quite interesting. I looked into, this was a while ago, so I might be inaccurate on the details, but I looked into the Australian government social security system, Centrelink, to classify as having a psychosocial disability. They have a bunch of different points that you have to hit. And one of the things that shocked me the most was that you aren't able to go out and engage with, the outside world without support. So, like, you can't engage with your local shops. You don't go to the local shops without support. And there's various levels of that they describe. I can't remember exactly how they worded it. And I just, like, the more I think about it, to me, I don't feel like I have a psychosocial disability. I feel like I just do my thing. But according to society, the way that I live is not, it's not functioning. I mean, I realize I'm not functioning because I don't have a job. I just struggle with life. If I try to do too much, I tend to burn out and then I will go down a depressive hole, and I have to do all the things to make sure I don't off myself. Yeah, so, like, I can see it in that way. Like, when I think through it logically, I'm like, yes, I am not functioning in this society. But this is the difference between logic and emotion. Like, emotionally, I'm like, no, this is fine. Staying home and not going out to buy things I need, that's totally fine. I'm sure if I got desperate, I could just order it online, even though I don't, because I get a little bit tight about money, even though it's not that big a deal. But then I don't want to get in the habit of online orders. I don't know. My brain goes through all these things. Anyway, like, it's not entirely logical. The shops are just there. It's not that far. It's like a 5-minute walk. I think. I haven't really timed it. But, like, maybe a 5-minute walk, maybe 10 if it's both ways. Okay, let's say it's a 10-minute walk. That's not that bad. I could just go up. But then my brain is like, no, but I have to put on, some proper pants. I mean, I could go out in my trackies. They are a little bit. But, like, they get a bit uncomfortable to walk in if I get too hot because then they trap too much heat. Did you see how my brain is going through all these things? And then I have to put my socks and my shoes on. I could wear my slip-on shoes, which are a little bit less to do than tying up my shoelaces. But then I also have to get my bag and then, make sure I'm warm enough because it's fucking winter here. And, like, what is the weather like? And then, is anyone home? Do I have to lock up the house? And then I have to walk up there, and walking, like, my mind can wander, and sometimes when I'm out for a walk I'll actually feel depressed. I'm doing better lately, maybe because the extroverted floof is taking me to places where it's harder. Although today we went on a walk that we avoided all the shops because he had quite a lot to eat yesterday, so I don't want him getting too many more treats. And there's some points where he's sniffing for way too long and I start just falling asleep because I get bored. But yeah, no, like, sometimes in the past on walks, I've just, like, my brain has gone to places and gotten depressed. So there's that. But yeah, and then if I'm on my own, I'm probably more inclined to have my mind wander and think about things that are, unpleasant. But yeah, then I have to walk up to the shops, find the thing. Sometimes they don't even have the thing, so then I've done all this and it's not even there. So I need to make sure I have more things to buy than just one thing so that at least I will come home with something. I hate shopping and not finding anything, or, like, window shopping, it's so pointless. I need to come back with something to feel like the trip was worth it. So yeah, can't really go shopping unless there's more than one item to buy and I can be reasonably certain something will be available. And then I gotta come all the way home, and then once I get home, after walking, quite often you're hot and sweaty, so you gotta take everything off, but then it gets cold once you cool down, so you gotta put everything back on again, gotta change back into comfy pants and the UGG boots instead of, the shoes, that's a lot of loose space. It's much more comfortable than, these shoes, the walking shoes. And then I can finally sit down and get on with whatever, and it's just like, I can't be bothered. I don't care enough about eating to do all that. And I have, when I first came across Schizoid, and they're like, oh yeah, Schizoids tend to be lower in weight. And then I think about that and I'm like, yeah, because who can be bothered to go and eat things? I'm doing better because I know I'm like low weight. I'm better these days. I'm better at eating. I have a few habits so that it makes sure I eat. A little bit hard sometimes here because mum tends to be in charge of the food and her dietary needs are a bit different to mine because we have different, medical, biological needs. But anyway, no, I'm doing better with food overall. But if it's something like the dried fruit, fresh fruit, yes, we have fresh fruit available most of the time, but there's things like with the glass child trauma, I tend to assume that most of it is for my disabled brother, so I have this weird thing about fruit where it's like, it's not for me. But then also, fresh fruit is a pain to eat. Like with a banana, you have to peel it and then hope it's a good banana instead of one of those really why am I eating this bananas that just don't taste right and have the wrong texture. It's like, And then with apples, you have to bite into it and sometimes it gets stuck all in your teeth and different sizes. Can I be bothered to eat the whole apple? But then it's a bit weird if you only eat half and just leave the rest half chewed, and I can't be bothered to chop up the apple. That's too much effort. So dried fruit works well for me, and being dried, there's less water content, so I can eat less but still get the same nutrients and fibers and whatever that I need. It's just I can't be bothered to go up there and get it for myself. The overthinking, and then just not being hungry enough, not giving enough of a shit. So I think about it, and I'm like, yeah, in some ways, I have gotten better at engaging with society, but in other ways, my default is still just to stay at home. And then lately, I've been doing better with my mental health lately, with the depression side. The part of my mental health that I care about is the depression. I don't want to be depressed. And I'm doing well now. And I do think part of it was a little bit of petty rage, but also just getting my music going again, doing that performance. And then since then, I did try to find gigs. And I think in the past I would have been frustrated and upset with not being able to find gigs, and there is a little bit of that there, but I'm actually coping all right. And distracting, someone's home. But then since then, I finally finished a song that I started last year, and then I started writing a new song, and I've finished the lyrics for that now. I think I'm gonna have to think about how I'm going to do certain screamed bits, because I feel like my usual scream, it needs to be a little bit more complex in the way that I'm doing it, and I now have more techniques that I can probably figure out how to do it a bit differently, but that is going to take a little bit of extra work. And then I have these extra ideas, and shit, I could go for a whole EP, I don't know, I'm coming up with music ideas, the music is actually happening, because in the past, to write a song, especially the second song, to write that so fast, that's the fastest I've written a song possibly ever, but definitely since uni, because if I don't have deadlines, I can just leave it for later. Who cares? I work best with external deadlines, convincing external deadlines. Self-directed stuff, if I don't experience a sense of reward a lot of the time, or if I do, it's very weak compared to other people who make achievements and they feel good about it. I don't experience that. I think it's the anhedonia kind of stuff, and, things to do with schizoid and depression. It's all mixed up in there. So it's hard to stick to anything. It's hard to stay interested in anything. But the music is actually going well. And maybe the fact that I'm seeing some progress with myself as a musician, with myself as a vocalist, with these songs actually making progress, But I've also been doing better in terms of like rotating my interests. So I try and do one day of visual art, one day of music. Even if I only do a small amount of either, like I'm trying to rotate them. And I think that's helping. And the art style that I'm doing at the moment, I can chuck on some YouTube videos at the same time, and so it's not just doing the art purely. The rest of my brain still has something to do, and that is working well. And it's kind of what I was doing with Neopets, except instead of doing Neopets, I'm doing art. I'm actually making something. It's working out. So yeah, I'm doing better in that sense. Why am I talking about my mental health doing better? Oh, because like with the music. The music is the main thing. I'm still doing YouTube as well. And I think I went through a period of it's mostly dog videos or like trash content, live streams, gaming live streams, very easy stuff. I haven't made a lot of these videos in the past while where I sit down and talk about things. I think it's just there was too much going on for me to concentrate on stuff. I don't know, but I'm doing better now. But with music, so music, out of all my hobbies, out of all my more consistent hobbies anyway, music is the thing that has the highest, interpersonal potential. I can sit at art, do that, chuck it in on the shelf, it's fine. If I organize an exhibition, it goes on the wall, and maybe I go to an opening, but you don't really tend to interact with people. Even if you were babysitting your gallery, you might get a few people in, but most galleries, especially small galleries at my level, you just never see anyone. So you don't really get chatting. And I'm not exhibiting. Unless it's a group exhibition, I'm not exhibiting. And with group exhibitions, I just go to the opening, talk to a few people. I'm dressed up crazy, so that it's very easy to start conversations because people just ask me stuff and I just respond. And there's not really much emotional investment or even intellectual investment, really. It's just oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. I've worked that out. YouTube is just YouTube. But with music, there is the component where I stay at home, I do my thing, I make my music, I post updates on Patreon about my progress, but at some point I'm going to have to release it. And I could just do what I've done in the past, which is release it without too much fanfare, promote it online, but then move on with my life. But, in terms of performance is very, there's so much peopleness involved. I mean, there's also going out of the house-ness. But, you have to be in touch with a venue or a promoter and have that interaction. And then you go there and people talk to you there as well, which is fine. I've gotten better at that. Although, if you ever see me at a performance, it's better to talk to me after I get off stage, because before I get on stage, I'm too busy, trying to figure out my shit and just be prepared. And sometimes I think there's a subconscious performance anxiety because I often have to go to the toilet a few times, and just making sure I have all my gear set, which isn't much gear these days, but just making sure everything is ready. And yeah, so when I get off though, I've had the adrenaline, I've got the relief, I'm in sort of a hyper state. You can talk to me then. I will be much more social then. But yeah, no, and there's so much with the social side of things and trying to convince people to give me a gig at the moment. I have contacted, I have emailed and filled out forms and applied to things, and haven't heard back from anyone really. All I've heard back pretty much is just a couple of places confirming they received my email or my application, and that is it. I think that no one in the local scene really understands what I'm doing. My style is quite different. I'm not metal, but I don't really fit into the electronic industrial scene, if we even have one that isn't just mainly dance music and DJs. I mean, maybe it's there and I just don't know how to find it. That's another thing, is knowing the right people to even find this stuff, because Facebook is atrocious now. How do we find anything? Yeah. So trying to interact that way. And yeah, I mean, another problem is I haven't been making fancy pants music videos and photography. And I don't have an EPK, and yeah, people just want people who've done all the superficial business stuff instead of looking at your music and your performance. It's very much marketing. And marketing is about manipulating people. And I'm just fucking really, do I have to? Can't be bothered. And with the gig situation, yeah, in the past I would have been frustrated and But now I'm just like, you know what, I don't really need to gig at the moment. The only part of me that is really like, I should try is when I did the open mic, a lot of people were like, oh, I can't make this one, but let me know when you're doing another show and I'll try and make it. And I did promise a lot of people that I would do more shows, but it's not my fault I haven't been able to find them. And at this point, I'm just like, you know what, I don't really need it. Because like most of the audience who gets what I'm about is online anyway. The local scene and like, you know, some parts of the local music scene, there's like weird interpersonal politics and I'm just struggling to care. And yeah, and then I meet people who seem okay, but then when you actually try and get down to details, you know, some who will be like, yeah, let's totally gig together or whatever. But when you actually try and get down to details, they just don't put in effort, or they disappear, or like, you know, trying to get an answer out of them. There's only so many times that you can check in. There's only so many times you can follow up. And at some point, you've just got to take the hint that they don't actually care. And I'm like, so why would you say you care if you don't actually care? Why are you people lying? It's annoying. And so I'm just kind of at that point where I'm like, no, I'm quite happy just doing my own thing. And like at the moment, I don't feel like I need to be on stage. I think because my mood is better. Like if my mood was worse, then I would probably see going on stage as a way to give myself a lift, because yeah, that whole adrenaline relief cycle. And I have made a video, anhedonia and adrenaline, about my theory, I think, of why adrenaline works, whereas, you know, serotonin, dopamine, all those other things don't seem to work. But yeah, so like that does give me a boost. There is also the crash afterwards, but at least I feel something, and something good for a change, instead of just being constantly depressed. But at the moment, I'm actually, like, I'm kind of at peace with what I'm doing, like working on my music, working on my art, working on my YouTube. Haven't been doing bonsai. But it's cold, it's fucking cold. This winter is so cold, and we're about to have another lot of rain, so I'll just wait until spring and hope that spring is okay and try to do as much as I can. I think, like, the extroverted floof is helping my fitness, because, like, I can walk down, there's some huge hills in my area, and I can walk down them. Up is harder. I prefer a gentler slope upwards, but I can walk downwards and my ankles don't hurt like they used to. Like in the past, if I only did those hills, the steep downward hills, if I only did them occasionally, my ankles would be so sore. And no, I'm doing fine now. Going up, I do get a bit out of breath still. That's not pleasant. I need the gentle slope upwards. But I have done it sometimes. Anyway, no, with my fitness, why did I bring up my fitness? Oh, because maybe it'll be easier to repot everything that I need to repot, which is pretty much every single one of my plants, and I'm not looking forward to that, because repotting is one of the things that made it really hard to keep my bonsai job, and obviously I didn't end up keeping that. Anyway, no, I'm quite content with the things I'm doing at the moment, and I don't really know why it is. Like, is it because I'm being more disciplined to get everything done? And I've even started cleaning up my desk. Like, there was a pile of stuff here, you remember. Now you can only see my phone and a few little tags that I should really put somewhere else, maybe in my art supplies stash. But I'm starting to clean up all this. And I think I have some intention to get organized somehow. I do have like a big project in mind with regards to my music that I might make an announcement on at some point, because I feel like I might need to... Like, I've tried to avoid the Schizoid community, but I feel like that might become relevant for the next lot of music that I'm doing, because I'm processing a lot of my shit, and it's like, who is going to understand what I'm on about? We'll see. I'll make that as a separate video, because I don't know a lot of people will get to this point, so there's no point saying it now, and I haven't quite decided. How to go about that. But, you know, I have been thinking about, like, the whole me trying to avoid the Schizoid label, or you're a Schizoid YouTuber, and I'm like, I do so many other things, and yes, that's true, but I also am still Schizoid, so it's like trying to avoid the female-fronted label. A lot of female-fronted bands don't want to be labeled that, even though it's technically true, regardless of what they're trying to do. Like, yes, maybe they aren't thinking about being female and trying to make a big deal of that, but incidentally, you still happen to be female fronted and you can't escape that. One of the funniest things about that, though, is like, oh, I don't want to be defined by my femininity and I don't want to be sexualized, and then half those bands will go off and just, you know, show a lot and be very skimpy and very sexualized, and it's like, what were you complaining about? Maybe you're just insecure. You should just go ahead and own it. If that's the performance you want to put on, go ahead and own it. Don't try and pretend to be something you're not. Don't claim you're something you're not. And yeah, so like with the schizoid stuff, the thing is, I don't talk about schizoid that much. It's sort of like when something comes up. So I don't know. I'm sort of thinking about that, like, is my avoidance of the whole schizoid thing another one of these, like, feeling-based things, emotion-based things, where I don't want to be part of any club. Clubs suck. I don't want to be part of any community. But if I think about it logically, am I just trying to avoid that because it's some kind of schizoid instinct that I have to just not be a part of anything? Then again, there are, like, I haven't met any schizoids in real life, as far as I know, at least, who haven't been open about it. But the ones that I've interacted with online, there are some who are super annoying. Like, every community, there are some who are super annoying. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a mental illness community or a sexuality community, like the asexuality community. I couldn't deal with that. Whether it's an interest-based community full of fucking nerds who are nerdier than I have ever nerded out. Yeah, I don't know. I just been thinking about that a bit, like, am I avoiding the whole schizoid thing a little bit too much? Am I, like, is it a defense mechanism, or do I actually just not want to be part of the community? Or, like, openly or overtly? Is it just that I'm a YouTuber who happens to be schizoid? Or, I don't know. I've been thinking about that a bit. And the thing is, like, in terms of me socializing, like, I'm much happier to just do shit online. I don't need a lot of that. Like, since my gig, I have been going out to a few other gigs. I think I only did, like, 2 or 3, though. And then I've just started sitting at home. I think I was sick the next week and there was a lot going on, and I just thought, I won't go out this week. And then I just haven't been out since. And I'm like, I'm fine with this. I don't need to go out. It's a lot logistically to have to work out with the extroverted floof, you know, and trusting my parents to do all the right things. And I'm probably a little bit more unreasonably concerned about than I need to be. They seem to do fine. It's just like, you know, it's one more thing to think about. But yeah, no, I just haven't been going out, and I have no desire to go out. Like, I think about the networking. Oh, I probably should, because, like, you know, that might help me get gigs. It never works, though. Anytime I try and network, I don't feel like it really goes anywhere. Maybe it does and I'm just not aware, but I don't know. I don't want the networking enough. I don't care enough. Like, when I actually go to these gigs and people are like, "You having fun?" And I know that the answer they want is yes. And a lot of the time I don't feel anything in particular. Depending on the music, sometimes I can get into the music and rock out. Like, music is one of the things that can move me. But would I describe that as having fun? I don't know. I'm probably too detached from that feeling if I am having fun. It's kind of a weird experience. And people's social expectations. Like I was saying on the live stream last night, like, my birthday is coming up in August. And there's so many social expectations for me to have fun around that. And often that's been the time that I've been most depressed. Because I think about my life and I'm like, I am not enjoying my life. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't have any desire to go out. And so I think about that and I'm like, there is more about me that is still schizoid. Like, yes, I've made a lot of progress. I can talk and I can be animated, but do I actually care? No, I can seem like I care, but really, I forget people. People remember me more than I remember them. If they have, like, very distinctive dogs, I might remember the dogs. Like, there's this lady who has 2 female Japanese Spitzers. One is slightly bigger than the other, and one likes to do these crazy circles and try and just sits down and sort of is like, hello. And yeah, it's weird. It's some of the few dogs that he doesn't get aggro at them, but he doesn't want to play either. He just kind of sits and is like, okay then. Very unusual. I remember those 2 dogs. And so if there's a lady walking them, I think she might be blonde, but I'm not sure. I know her by her dogs. I don't know what her name is. I don't even really know what she looks like, but I know what her dogs are like. Yeah, so I can, in short bursts, do a simulation of the things that I'm supposed to do if I was a normal person. I can go out, I can make conversation. I've even gotten better at approaching people, as I've said, without needing an extrovert to adopt me and help me out with that. But in terms of like my internal experience and my instinct, I am still quite indifferent and still would prefer to just stay home. And even here gets crowded because obviously I'm not living on my own. But I would rather stay here than be out in the world and dealing with all that. I don't know, like, it's weird. People think that I'm doing a lot better, but when it comes down to it, I'm still, like, very much the schizoid personality disorder, just better at hiding it. I think that's all I got to say. Like, it's a bit all over the place, but you get the vibe. Like, yes, I've made progress, but the progress is performative. I don't know. It's not that I'm trying to perform. Like, it's a lot of it has become automatic enough that I don't need to consciously think about anything. I don't know if I've ever needed to consciously think about anything. It's just like practice and getting more comfortable with things. I don't really know how to describe it. But it's like it's surface level. It's not really like, I don't feel like I want to go out more. I don't feel like I want to hang out with people more. It's just like, it's still very theoretical. I should go out and interact with people because of the evolutionary stuff I mentioned before. We're a social species, and maybe that would help with the brain chemicals. And maybe it is helping with the brain chemicals and I'm just not aware of it, and maybe I'm in denial of it. That's the thing, like with the whole, like I mentioned, the social Centrelink social security criteria to be considered as having a psychosocial disability. One of the things they mention in those checklists is that the person who has the mental illness may not realize how bad their mental illness is, may not realize how much it affects them, may not even realize that it's a problem at all. And when you think about that, like mostly you would think of like schizophrenics in the middle of a psychosis. They often don't know that they're delusional or hallucinating. They believe what their brain is telling them. But it does go as well for those of us with more invisible mental illnesses, where I sit at home and I think it's perfectly fine. Fine for me to sit at home and not engage with the world at all, even though I don't necessarily connect it with the depression. Like, yeah, it probably is making me depressed, but the outside world is like, that is not right. That is not right. You are not functioning in this world. Therefore, you are not, you're disabled, psychosocially disabled. And like, I find that so hard to come to terms with, especially having a profoundly physically and intellectually disabled brother. And then mine is more the mental illness type of disability. And I can see why mental illness doesn't get as much attention or support in that sense. But yeah, coming to terms with it, thinking through it logically, I'm like, shit, that does describe the state that I'm in. I'm psychosocially disabled according to our society. Holy crap. That's taken a lot to get my head around. But yeah, the more I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I've made all this progress, but I kind of haven't at the same time. It's very superficial. Kind of blows my mind a bit. Because I don't feel... But then logically, like, there's a mismatch there. And yeah, I am not fully equipped to assess my level of impairment. And, you know, maybe part of the disorder is also tricking you into thinking that this is perfectly fine. Because then you don't challenge your comfort zone or... I mean, I challenge my comfort zone a lot, but I keep coming back to it. It's probably the main difference between me and other schizoids who just stay at home and don't make any changes and wonder why life doesn't get better. I mean, that's the thing. If you make no changes, life will stay the same level of shit. So I am trying that. And something must have worked recently because I am doing better at the moment. Helps that family life is mostly more stable and people aren't having as much of a go at me. I've gotten, used to the extroverted floof. I don't really know why now. Like, maybe it's just a natural fluctuation as well. Why the depression is less or almost not even there most of the time at the moment. And I'm actually, like, content. For me to be content, that's a big deal. Happiness, I don't know what that is. But content, that's a big deal. Anyway, but I don't know. It's wild, this mental health stuff. And, like, being able to take a step back from yourself and just assess that and be like, yeah, wow, I am actually still a lot more messed up than I tend to think of myself. I don't know, that's my thought for the day, and that I've been thinking about for a while.